When did you realize you married the wrong person? One day I realized I had become a smaller version of myself. On the wedding day, she spent a fortune on unnecessary things, and I knew I'd be the one fitting the bill on the credit card she ran up. So I told her no more. She said she wanted an ice cream vendor there. We already had 2 dessert bars. Told her it was not needed. She fought me on it, but finally agreed. Wedding day comes, I'm standing with my groomsmen, in comes the ice cream truck. Knew right then, sadly. Engaged, not quite married yet. When I had been on mandatory bed rest and caring for our infant son, after having emergency surgery for nearly bleeding to death after a miscarriage, and he came home from work and looked me dead in the face and said, "Why aren't the fucking dishes done?" Called my mom the next morning and told her I was leaving. Hightailed it out of there 2 weeks later. When I lost twins and he dropped me off at the hospital to get an operation to have my babies removed. He dropped me off at the hospital bleeding and went for a party with his friends. Edit fixed typo.
When she sat me down and with a straight face said, "I've thought about this and you're not going to exercise anymore." I was jogging a few miles a day and would usually bring kids within running stroller. She said, "You're a father and it's too time consuming." That's when I realized I made a terrible mistake, lol. Catching her with another man in my car didn't help the case to stay married.
When I realized if we weren't dating I wouldn't have wanted to be his friend. I realized that I was hiding good news from her because I knew she would make me feel bad about it. I hoped she was going to grow up and stop being selfish and childish. She never did. When he was messaging a side chick on our wedding day, and boy did it go sideways from there. This post made me think of a quote by Robin Williams. I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people that make you feel all alone. When she fucked a high school flame for a year whilst hiding it and staying home on my single income. We weren't working. I knew that. I was trying to improve things, and we'd talked about it, but she somehow neglected to give me that detail. I'm not angry that she didn't love me. But fuck, just tell me. Don't do me dirty like that after 13 years. Not married, but together for years. Got diagnosed with cancer and she kinda shut off. She then decided to leave several months later. At an appointment I was officially 1 year clear, which is a milestone. I realized I was alone through a lot of it. She never wanted anything to do with it. Was a revelation to myself that the relationship breakdown wasn't all because of me. Got my 3 years tests this weekend, blood tests and scans etc. Current GF is driving me and then taking me out to lunch afterwards. Hell of an upgrade. 6 months after our wedding when I found out about the emotional, he says only emotional, but I'm pretty sure it was physical too, affair through text messages. He had sent his affair partner screenshots of my texts to him in which I was begging him to talk to me and tell me what was wrong. They both proceeded to make fun of my desperation to fix my marriage, and his affair partner said something along the lines of, "Poor Valiant, she doesn't know anything and keeps begging you for attention and affection." The moment I read those words I realized how big of a mistake I had made. When I came home from the ER after being diagnosed with a severe lung disorder, and she immediately left me with the kids so she could go out drinking with friends. Her exact words were, "I need you to make them dinner, I'm running late to meet up with everyone." When I got her to admit she was having an affair. 10 years married, 2 kids. What a mess. She followed it up a month or 2 later telling me she never loved a person like she does with new partner. So welcome to divorce land. Population, me. The second he decided to hit me. We were married for less than a year, and no kids, thankfully. Took 2 months, and we were divorced. When I found out he was cheating. Not only was he cheating, but he used the same exact lines on his AP that he did when we were in the talking phase. After I discovered his affair and confronted him, he was adamant that he was not going to stop seeing or talking to her. I've never seen him so physically angry in our entire relationship. That was enough for me to get my things and go. Turns out he was a really good liar. One of those cunning fox types that lies about stupid little things to make the bigger lies not seem like a lie.
A woman I was dating told me she divorced her husband because after his father died in his arms he was very depressed and she didn't want to be around depressed people. Imagine your father died and a few months later your wife leaves you because you have not recovered from that.
After the kid was born. Total shift. Turns out only I wanted to be a parent. The moment I had to adjust my boundaries, I knew I'm with the wrong guy. The worst happened last year, when after being together for 11 years, he chose to cheat with my niece who just turned 18. I'm 30 by the way. It's not the first time he cheated too. It just kept getting worse from there. All the gaslighting and psychological trauma and abuse, I'd never wish that to anyone, not even on his mistresses. I wish our country have divorce. We're in PH. We're still together. We had been engaged for just over a year together for around a decade and I realized I didn't actually want to be with her, I just was too invested and I didn't want to make her upset. I knew we would end up getting divorced at some point down the road, so I decided to end it before then. Went to therapy and realized I had spent my whole childhood trying to make my parents happy, and then I immediately got into a relationship and spent all of my adulthood trying to make her happy. I was miserable because of it, but I just didn't know. When my aunt, who I loved dearly, passed away. She was only 54 and I was devastated by her loss, which my husband knew. As soon as we got home my husband said, well, that's that. We can move on now. She was just cold in the ground and he was saying that being dead, no pun intended, serious, whilst turning on his PS4 to play games. I was speechless and went to bed by myself, feeling so utterly lonely. 2 days later, he forgot my birthday. We've been divorced for 7 years now. Together 15 years, married 13. She said one day, to hurt me, I don't find you physically, mentally, or sexually attractive. I recoiled. This was about 4 months ago, we're still together, but I just can't get over it. He threw a surprise birthday for me, and towards the end I was inside near the food table and everyone had already gone outside. I affectionately called him over as he was passing by to have a moment. He rolled his eyes and walked on saying he was hanging out with so and so. Anyone, even a stranger on the road, was always more important. He just did not give a fuck about me. He only did things for how he would appear to others.
When he accused me of fucking my father, who is an amazing man and still to this day the best father he's known. The amount of shit my father has stealthily arranged for him to try and help him through hard situations is gracious, and entirely befitting of my father at his core. And still, that fucking pathetic cunt accused me of fucking my father. Too motherfucking Freudian for me, dog.
I came home from a long day of work to find burn marks all over the carpet and linoleum. My then husband had spent the entire day playing games on his PC. While doing so, he had been ignoring our puppy who had managed to somehow get a hold of a phone battery, bite through it, and cause a small fire. Thankfully, the dog wasn't injured. This event, on top of finding out shortly before he had been lying about going to community college for almost a year, was the turning point where my feelings died. This thread has made me more secure in the fact that I absolutely chose the right person. When I booked a business meeting to discuss how our future would change as our teens transition to university, assured him it was all positive, just wanted space to talk. It's always been very difficult to find time to talk to him, so I figured I'd be all business-like since work has always been priority number one. That didn't go well. I had barely opened my mouth and he shat all over me about my ever-changing hobbies. Those ever-changing hobbies have been guitar and oil painting for the last 8 years. I mentally checked out that day when he didn't mention me in his speech at our wedding. He thanked everyone else, commented on the bridesmaids, talked about our daughters. I may as well not have even been there. First night of our honeymoon I got horrendously sick and he left me alone in our room to go watch something on the big screen on the beach. So much for sickness